Well, I'm Suzi Q, sitting here at Van Noord Arena at Calvin College with two members of the Decemberists. We're very excited to have you guys in town today. Maybe you can introduce yourselves and tell me what you play for the Decemberists, what your role is in the band.
I'm Nate Query, and I play bass.
I'm John Moen, and I play drums.
Fantastic. So you're touring right now on the project The King is Dead, and that project has hit #1 on the charts, as I recall. But you guys have been with this band for a long time, a little indie band out of Portland. And I suspect there's probably some differences between touring with The King is Dead and maybe what touring was like for you several years ago. I wonder if you could talk about some of the most notable differences as an artist on the stage, touring with this project versus some of your earlier work.
Well, we work not as hard now.
Yeah, actually, most of the differences are not on stage, they're off stage.
Yeah, tell me about those. What's that like?
Well, the biggest difference is that we don't do anything anymore during the day. Because we have all these guys that
You're men of leisure? Is that what you're saying?
We had a lot of free time to visit with you today.
Yeah. Excellent, we like that. Yeah.
And we have a bunch of guys that go to work at 10 a.m. and work till like midnight every day.
You can afford roadies.
Or one. Well, not only that, you get to a point where you have to have them to help, and then they don't. Then instead of helping, they're just doing it, and they don't even want you to get involved anymore.
Stand back, please.
So,
right.
But on stage, it's hard to compare because it's been sort of a gradual change. I mean, obviously off stage, it's a big difference.
Yeah, what are some of the things when you're touring? You've done a lot of touring for the years. The Decemberists have been on the road a lot. What are some of the things that you enjoy doing? Obviously now you have maybe more time to enjoy doing like the traveling thing. But what are some of the things either you do individually or as a band that really energizes you while you're on the road for these long stints?
Mostly...
Nothing really energizes.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Maybe energizing is the wrong word.
Maybe this isn't going to be the sort of upbeat, positive energy expected, but the funny thing is, like, you try and spend most of your time more conserving energy for the show rather than building it up.
Okay.
So, but one thing that we've always done together way back then and now is eating together and eating fancy, yummy food and stuff. So that's something we always seek out, I think, and especially on nights off, is that our management and people that get to look at our budgets often laugh at how we seem to always want to go out and live it up. We have imaginary patrons that pay for our dinners and stuff, and so that's something. And then other than that, you know, it's like spend a lot of time. Some people read. I usually ride my bike or something. And drink a lot of coffee, sit around.
Can I ask where you guys went to dinner last night?
You can. It was, it was a little bit of a failed mission because it was Easter, you know, so there wasn't a lot open. There was two things open. There was a sports bar in the hotel, and we had some wings, and we thought, wow, this isn't quite working. So then we went up to a Mexican restaurant and had another meal that really wasn't quite working either. But that's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's not the same as having a day off, like in Chicago or New York, where like, where should we eat dinner tonight? Instead, it was like,
Easter.
Is there anything open tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I watched the Game of Thrones, you know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Kind of crummy fantasy.
HBO.
That's a new series, right?
Yeah.
So you get hooked on a specific series, maybe
Yeah.
on certain tours.
That kind of helps get through.
That's going to be hard though. Then we're going to go home and not have HBO, and then
right.
Go get a hotel every Sunday.
To get connected to that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So this new project, The King is Dead. You guys have been known for these kind of broad narrative projects where the whole everything's fitting into a specific story that's being told, or several song arcs. But I think I read an interview where Colin called this a collection of simple songs. And I wondered how that affected the recording process as you guys went into the studio. Did knowing that you were doing something it was a little more kind of one-off in terms of the songs as opposed to doing something that had a narrative arc. Did that affect how you approached the project? I think I heard Colin say something that he thought it was going to be simpler than it was because of that fact, but I wondered what your perspective was on the recording process.
I think it definitely changed things. It was the record previous had been Hazards of Love, and it was sort of had a built-in schedule, and it had an order of things, and so in a way you're kind of filling out a work order.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it wasn't that mechanical, certainly, but you knew what your next job was going to be, and you had to kind of stand on your toes and mentally there's like a map that you could see to getting it done. And this one was a little bit, wasn't quite like that. And I think it was kind of a big change, you know.
Yeah, it was like with this one we could approach each song in a vacuum and be like, let's change gears and do this song for now. Whereas in Hazards of Love, every song was related to every other song, so you couldn't really just take each song on. I think the funny thing is we thought it was going to be so easy that instead of just figuring out what songs were going to be on the record, we recorded almost twice as many songs as ended up on the record, just to make sure our lives were going to be difficult in the studio. You know, you can't just go in and bang it out. So it ended up being this thing where we, you know, some of the songs came together quicker than others, and some were a struggle. But then when it came down to it, we only picked 10 songs for the record, and so we had a bunch that we really like struggled with for a while, and then ended up.
That didn't end up.
But I mean, that way, it's nice to have songs to choose from. But, but we had a fair amount of stuff to work with that ended up on the digital imaginary cutting room floor.
When you guys go to the studio, typically, I don't know, what is your songwriting process like? Does Colin come in with a bunch of lyrics and you guys put music to it, or how does this? Have you guys hashed out
things writes everything
in advance, musically as well, and then you guys come in and flesh it out in the studio?
Yeah, usually he gives us demos ahead of time that are fleshed out to varying degrees, sometimes all the way, and sometimes just solo acoustic. So that's our starting point, and then once we're all together in a room, we sort of start taking it from there and see where it goes. Yeah.
Was there any specific track on this album that started in one place and ended in a very different place that you were kind of surprised at by the time you kind of finished that cut?
Not really. I don't think so. I think things were really, he pretty heavily demoed this time around, more than the last one even. And so I think there was less question about where things were going to head, in my mind.
Yeah, I think, well, like All Arise was one where it ended up being this like fiddle-centric tune, and you know, we don't even have a fiddle player in the band. We were bringing one out this trip, but that was an interesting one because our friend Annalisa came out to play with us on that, and kind of had this cool idea, and then we just turned into sort of the most Barney jam of the Barn record. So that was kind of a nice surprise. But yeah, we were remarkably faithful to the demos, given, I think, the kind of record it was.
Yeah. And Gillian Welch appears on a number of tracks in this project. How did that happen? What was the process through which she was pulled into this project? Were you part of that? Do you know?
It wasn't.
She just showed up at the studio.
It's not. It's not as. It's funny because it's like she plays such a huge role in the record, but really it was like ahead of time. Colin asked her, and then kind of kept at her about being on the record, and she was into it. We've hung out with her before, and you know, our sort of music community friends or whatever. And then scheduling-wise, the only way to make it work was to have Tucker, the producer, fly down to LA by himself with some hard drives and record her and Dave Rawlings, both of them.
Okay, so they weren't in the studio with you guys?
The first time...
Surprisingly unromantic.
Yeah, I know.
Well, even like you just really, you get a sense of her, you know, participation in the song.
And Tucker really, you know, even though he works as like a co-producer with us or whatever, like he's somebody we trust to the nth degree, and he's really good at, I mean, a lot of the records he makes sound more intimate than the process would have you believe. So, but yeah, the first time we saw Gillian after she did it was when we played on Leno with her, like months after the record was done. So kind of weird, but you know, in this modern age, it's not unheard of. So.
It's the way to get Gillian Welch on your album.
Yeah, hey, whatever it takes.
Totally. Speaking of this is a side project for Gillian, but I know both of you have your own side projects that you're involved in. I think Black Prairie is one that you're involved in, and perhaps is that
also Boston
project?
Spaceships.
Boston Spaceships.
Bob Pollard band.
And I played cello for a few seconds on the Boston Spaceships record.
Excellent. That's right. Well, we've got Guided by Voices here in town this coming weekend.
Oh, no kidding.
We're going to do 2 nights at a small little 400-seat venue here in town that's we're really excited about.
That should be great.
Friday and Saturday night, the Pyramid Scheme is the name of it.
Cool.
So the rumor is that you guys are going on hiatus after this tour, though there's some hope that it might be extended indefinitely, this tour. It seems to get a bit longer. Will you be working on those projects? What does hiatus look like for you guys? Other than, I'm sure, getting off the road and just kind of resting and
a hammock.
saying hi to your friends again.
Yeah, like a hammock.
Yeah.
And a watermelon.
Once the hammock and the watermelon have been laden and consumed, what does hiatus look like for you guys?
There's going to be some music for sure.
Yeah, some music, some parenting.
A lot of parenting, actually.
Yeah.
You know, take up some hobbies again. But it's funny, for me anyway, my music career has always been this series of like getting more busy and then getting less busy and then feeling like I need to do more stuff, and then it sort of comes out of the woodwork and then I get too busy, and so I'm expecting a period of being a lot less busy, and then who knows what will come along and how I will get more busy. So
serendipity.
One thing that seems to be for sure is the John Wesley Harding.
Oh, that's true. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, Wesley Stace, a friend of ours. We did a record with him. Everybody except Colin from the band was part of it.
Okay.
And Peter Buck, incidentally.
Peter Buck, who was
He's
also
part of everything.
Yeah, he gets around.
Yeah. So I think November's been sort of tentatively looked at as a time we could get out and do a few shows around that record.
Fantastic. Now, is that record out now?
No.
It'll come out probably this fall.
I think he's got actually a lot of legwork to do before it happens.
Okay, so tentatively.
He sort of made it because he wanted to make it, and I don't think there's a lot of infrastructure set up yet.
Okay.
But he's got a new book out that's doing really well. So, and then actually, now that you mention it, I'm already thinking like, okay, so that's November. And in October, Jenny and I's old band that we were in 10 years ago is doing a reunion show, couple. So that's October. So see, things are already.
It's already, the calendar's already got some dates on it.
Things kind of happen along.
Sure.
Stuff will happen.
Definitely sure. So I mentioned, I'm not sure if I articulated this earlier, but WYCE is a local community radio station. We're a nonprofit station, largely volunteer run. And one of our big joys is introducing people to music they're just not hearing anyplace else. And I wonder if you guys have anything that you're listening to these days that you're really enjoying.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Whether it would be unheard of or something that everyone would know about.
One band I try to tell everybody about is a band from Portland that has started. They're a jazz group. If they start calling themselves jazz, not jazz, then they tend to. They sort of have one foot in the indie rock community world and one foot in the jazz world. They're called the Blue Cranes. They're actually right now on a 5-week tour around the United States completely by train.
Fantastic.
They did a Kickstarter project to pay for it, and there's not a lot of money in touring as a jazz group, unfortunately. And seems like it's going really well, but they're really interesting, and it's something that open-minded listeners should check out.
And that's the Blue Cranes?
The Blue Cranes, yeah. They're from Portland.
There's another Portland band I really like called Old Light right now. And then they've got a record out, it's on Arena Rock Records, small label in Portland, and they're just fantastic. It's fantastic. Like a kind of a pop band, but with a lot of, like they play auto harp a lot.
Okay.
But it's not just wispy folky jams that like sort of a lot of kids are doing these days. It's sort of
it's not twee.
They're like guys that are older than us, and they play loud. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of
awesome. And it's pop. It's loud.
It's really driving.
That's great.
It's hard to explain. It's kind of a lot of different things put together, but in a really nice way.
It's a little hootenanny-ish.
Yeah.
We get into that in Michigan.
But they did a show opening for Black Prairie like this one.
Okay.
That was really fun. They're great.
Outstanding.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking some time. I hear Colin sound checking on the stage. I don't know if that means that you guys...
That's canned.
That's canned, okay.
Our sound guy records each show, and then when he's checking the PA, often pipes in the show from yesterday to see how the PA sounds.
How the PA sounding will...
So it's very confusing.
The behind the scenes stuff. I know, it's like, do you guys need to go?
Yeah.
Well, in any case, yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, he's really good. Oh, that's neat. Well, thank you guys so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk to us.
Thanks for coming.
We're big fans of you guys at WYCE.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be here tonight.
Cool.
All right. Bye now.